The third mental law that we'll talk about at this time is called the law of attraction. Now, there are hundreds of books that have been written on this subject of the law of attraction. And basically what the law of attraction says is that each human being is a living magnet, that we radiate thought energy, and that we invariably attract into our lives the people and circumstances that harmonize with our dominant thoughts. That our lives are right now, today, surrounded by and representations of our dominant thought patterns. That if we wish to attract different people, different circumstances, different events, we have to change the content of our conscious minds, because we go through life like a magnet, always attracting to ourselves the people, the events, the circumstances, the good or bad fortune that harmonizes with our dominant thoughts. When a person is feeling very positive, feeling very good about themselves, feeling very up on life, it's remarkable how many good things, good situations, good circumstances they attract to themselves. And when a person is feeling negative and pessimistic and cynical and down on themselves, it's amazing how many negative situations they experience and how many negative people they meet. And these happen by law, not by chance, that we can dramatically improve the quality of our lives by understanding these essential mental laws, by taking control of our minds, by manufacturing our beliefs so they are consistent with what we want to happen to us, by manufacturing expectations consistent with what we want to happen in our future, and by thinking continually of the people and circumstances we want to draw into our lives. Earl Nightingale set history many years ago by his record called The Strangest Secret, in which he came to the conclusion that you become what you think about. The most important single breakthrough in understanding of human nature in this century is summarized in those words, that you become what you think about. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, a man becomes what he thinks about all day long. And we could probably summarize these opening comments by reminding you that you are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. Going on, we come to the subject of attitude. We know that since we become what we think about, the most outwardly identifiable characteristic or manifestation of what we're thinking about is our attitude. And we know that a positive mental attitude is an absolutely indispensable prerequisite for success. A study at Harvard University a few years ago amongst executive recruiters came to the conclusion that 85% of everything that a person would accomplish or attain in terms of finance, money, prestige, status, recognition, after they left Harvard University would be based on their attitude and only 15% on their aptitude or ability. In fact, over the years, they have found that there is absolutely no correlation whatever between grade level coming out of high school or university and lifetime earnings, that there is no way that they can match the two at all. The only characteristics that determine how well a person does and how far they go are attitudinal, in at least 85% of cases. The Cox Report on American Business said unequivocally that as many as 94% of the top executives of Fortune 500 corporations attributed their success more to attitude than to any other ingredient. We know that a positive mental attitude is essential for success. We've been told all our lives that we have to improve our attitude, we have to smarten up our attitude, we have to get our attitudes right. We've been told that we have to have a positive attitude, and there are books and tape courses and seminars that tell people to have a positive attitude. So our question has been, why is it that with all of this information, so few people have positive attitudes? We know that if you could buy a bottle of pills at the drugstore and take them along with your orange juice in the morning, the same as you take a vitamin C pill, and have a positive mental attitude all day, everybody would do it. So our question has been, where do attitudes come from? And that brings us to our old friend, expectations. Our attitudes come from our expectations about outcomes. If we expect things to turn out well, we have positive attitudes. If we expect things to turn out poorly, we have a tendency to have negative attitudes. Let me give you an example. Imagine that you live in Los Angeles, and you have put together the most important project of your life, and you are short of funds, and you decide to invest everything that you have in flying to New York to find a backer for your project. And you fly to New York on a Sunday, and you have a whole series of appointments lined up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And you start off Monday morning, and you go out to see people. And everybody that you go and see turns you down flat, rejects you cold, tells you that they're not interested in your proposal, that it's harebrained, that it's too expensive, that it's ill thought out. And this is the most important project you've ever put together in your life. And you go from interview to interview, and every single person turns you down and shuts the door and rejects you. And this happens all day Monday, and it happens all day Tuesday, and it happens all day Wednesday. And by Wednesday night, you're totally exhausted. You're totally dispirited. You're discouraged. You don't have any energy at all. And you crawl back to your hotel room and you close the door and pick up the telephone and phone home. The person who picks up the telephone on the other end of the line, recognizing that you're feeling discouraged, says, "Cheer up. Don't feel so bad. It doesn't matter anyway, because we've just won $1 million in the lottery." Now let me ask you, what would happen to your spirits that moment when you learned that you'd won $1 million? Now, would you have to think about it for 10 or 15 minutes? Or would something happen to you instantaneously? Instantly you learned that you'd won $1 million. All your fatigue, all your depression, all of your aggravation, all of the rejection of the last 3 days would disappear from your mind, and the only thing that you would think of is the fact that you had that $1 million and all the opportunity and affluence and possibilities that represented. You'd be filled with energy and excitement and enthusiasm. Now let us say that you had committed yourself to 2 more days of appointments, and you were going to see those appointments through because you're a responsible person. And you go out the next day to your appointments one after another. How much more likely would you be to be successful in those appointments knowing that you had $1 million waiting for you when you got home? How much more enthusiastic would you be? How much more confident? How much more forceful? How much more positive would you be? How much more likely would people be to respond positively to your proposal on Thursday and Friday rather than the way they did on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? Well, let us assume that you finish your appointments, you jump on the airplane that afternoon, you fly all the way home to Los Angeles, you jump in your car, you race home, you run in the door, you kiss whoever it is that's there, and you say, "Where is it?" And the person says, "April Fool. I was just kidding. I recognized that you were feeling a little bit tired and discouraged, and I thought I would just tell you something to cheer you up." Now, after you had finished strangling whoever it was, you might ask yourself this question: was your attitude real or not? Were your feelings truly positive and excited and enthusiastic or not? And the answer that you'll come up with was, yes, your attitude was real. Your feelings were real. Your level of energy, your enthusiasm, your vitality, your excitement were all real, because those are not the sort of things that you can artificially manufacture, even though the expectations upon which they were based were totally false. If you can understand the importance of this concept, you'll have one of the keys to understanding why some people are far more successful than others, in that what winners make a habit of doing is manufacturing their own positive expectations in advance of the event. They have an attitude of positive self-expectancy in that well before something good happens to them, they are expecting something good to happen, expecting the very best to come out of their efforts. They are manufacturing their expectations even though they have no information upon which to base it, which causes them to have positive, enthusiastic attitudes, which causes them to affect people in a positive way and get positive reactions. If we make a habit of always expecting the best to come out of everything that we do, we will have one of the keys to a successful life. Where do our expectations come from? And our expectations, we find, come from our beliefs. They come from our fundamental beliefs about ourselves and the world around us. In other words, our expectations are manufactured to the degree to which we believe the source. If the person who told us that we had won $1 million had never lied to us and was someone that we trusted implicitly, to the degree to which we believed that person, our expectations would be manufactured, which would generate our attitudes, which would affect our results. So our beliefs are very important. And then we go back one step further. Where do our beliefs come from, especially our beliefs about ourselves? And that brings us to the most important single breakthrough in psychology in the 20th century, which is our understanding of the self-concept. Our beliefs are based on our self-concept, and every single one of us has a self-concept which is the controlling factor on our performance. We always perform in a manner consistent with our self-concepts. Our self-concepts precede and predict our levels of performance and effectiveness in everything that we do, and we can never perform in a manner inconsistent or contrary to that basic self-concept. And our self-concept is a combination of all of the ideas, thoughts, pictures, experiences, things that have happened to us over the course of our lives that come together to form a composite image of the person that we believe ourselves to be, and we always act in a manner consistent with it. We know that the average person uses less than 10% of their potential as a human being. Some researchers today say that it's less than 5%. Recent indications suggest that it's closer to 1 or 2%. And we also know that there is a direct relationship between our level of performance and our self-concept, between our levels of effectiveness and our concept of ourselves, that we never perform at a higher level than our self-concept level of performance. And if we wish to raise the amount of our potential that we use, we have to increase the height of our self-concept. We also know that each person has an overall self-concept, but we also have 200 or 300 mini self-concepts, self-concepts that govern and regulate every single area of our life that we consider important. For instance, we have a self-concept of how we dress. We have a self-concept of how much we weigh. We have a self-concept of what kind of a parent we are, what kind of a child we are, what kind of an employer we are, what kind of an employee, what kind of a husband or what kind of a wife. We have a self-concept of ourselves as how well we drive. For example, men have a universally high self-concept of themselves as drivers. All men consider themselves to be excellent drivers, and any woman who has ever had the opportunity to correct a man's driving knows exactly what I'm talking about. It is not well received. Women have a high self-concept of themselves in the way they dress, but we all have self-concepts of the way that we perform athletic activities. And if we play several different sports, we have a self-concept for each of those sports, which controls how we perform. We have a self-concept for how musical we are, what sort of public speaker we are, what sort of human relations we have, what sort of attractiveness we have to others, how popular we are, how likable, how lovable, how attractive, how intelligent, how well we learn, how well we concentrate. We have a self-concept of ourselves for languages and for mathematics and for history and for various subjects, how well we read or don't read. We have a self-concept of our own vocabulary. In every case, the self-concept acts as a regulator that controls how we perform in that area. Our overall self-concept is an average of all of those self-concepts in every area of our life that we consider important. And the self-concept is made up of 3 fundamental ingredients. These 3 ingredients and the understanding of the self-concept are the key to understanding and unlocking human performance. The first element of the self-concept is what we call the self-ideal or the ideal self. Every one of us has a bundle of pictures and feelings and thoughts of the ideal person that we would most like to be. It's usually a composite of all the people that we have admired, the role models that we've had, the teachers, the parents, the people we've read about, movie stars, friends, and so on. A combination of characteristics. And that's our ideal person. That's the person we would most like to be. That's the person we continually strive to be more like. And this self-ideal acts as a directional mechanism in our lives in that we are continually adjusting our behaviors and our actions and our words to try to be more like that ideal person. If you wanted to pick one word that summarized everybody's self-ideal, the best word would be that of a winner. Everybody wants to be a winner. Everybody wants to feel that they are a winner, however they define winning. Each person needs that feeling of being successful, of being valuable, of being a winning human being. And we're continually striving to achieve that. We know that people who have a constant series of winning experiences, usually self-controlled and self-directed, are people who have high positive self-concepts, who feel good about themselves, and who perform at high levels of effectiveness. The second part of the self-concept is the self-image. The self-image is the picture that we have of ourselves performing. It's the way we see ourselves and the way we think about ourselves. It's been called the inner mirror, if you like, and whenever we go to do anything, we have a picture inside of us, a self-image, that regulates our external performance and our conduct. We always tend to walk, to talk, to sit, to act, to think, to interact, to relate to other people in a manner consistent with this self-image or this inner mirror. And we know that if we wish to change our external performance, we have to change this picture. And the work that has been done in self-image psychology overwhelmingly demonstrates that if we change the picture that we have of ourselves in our minds, we change our external performance. that we can replace an old negative picture or ineffective picture with a new positive picture of us as effective human beings, and that's the way that we'll perform. The third element of the self-concept is what we call the self-esteem. And the self-esteem is the root of self-concept. It's the very core of human personality. The self-esteem is generally agreed upon by virtually all schools of modern psychology to be the most important, the most critical element in all of human performance. The self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. Now, our self-ideal may or may not be realistic, and our self-image may or may not be consistent with reality or consistent with the way other people see us. But our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, is always true. Whether positive or negative, high or low, it is always true. And the best definition of self-esteem is how much you like yourself. How much you like yourself is the most important single statement about you as a human being. How much you like yourself determines how well you perform in every area of your life. How much you like yourself as an employee, how much you like yourself as a parent, how much you like yourself in terms of physical fitness and physical attractiveness, how much you like yourself in terms of your relationships with other people, how much you like yourself as a public speaker, how much you like yourself as a teller of jokes, how much you like yourself as a person who can learn various subjects. How much you like yourself is the most important single statement about you as a human being. It is the very core of personality, and the more you like yourself, the better you perform in every single area of your life. And we know that since you become what you think about, that if you say over and over to yourself, I like myself, 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 I like myself. If you say it with feeling and believe it, and say it with emotion and with enthusiasm, every time you say, I like myself, your overall self-concept goes up. Every time your overall self-concept goes up, your ability to perform in every area of your life goes up simultaneously. People who genuinely like and accept themselves as valuable human beings find that they perform at higher levels of effectiveness in every single thing that they attempt. And we recommend to people who have not heard this before that they say, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, over and over again, 5, 10, 50, 100 times a day. Say it over and over and over again until it is driven so deeply into the subconscious that everything that you do is a reflection of a person who has high, genuine levels of liking and self-acceptance. There are many myths, if you like, or misunderstandings in modern thought that get in the way of our liking ourselves. And let me just mention a couple of these. Many people think that it's not nice to like yourself, that somehow people who like themselves are not the type of people that we want to be like. We've heard the expression, he or she likes himself too much, and we don't want to be like people like that. This is a confusion, and this is mistaking self-liking for the same characteristic as vanity, or arrogance, or conceit, or pushiness, or aggressiveness, or obnoxiousness, or being overbearing. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. People who genuinely like and accept themselves, people who have high positive self-concepts, only manifest this in positive interactions with other people. Individuals who have what we call the superiority complex, where they are vain and arrogant and pushy, or the inferiority complex, where they are withdrawn and insecure and unsure, are both extremes on opposite ends of genuine self-acceptance, genuine self-liking. People who genuinely like themselves and accept themselves as valuable persons like and accept other people to the exact same degree. People who do not like themselves compensate for it by either feelings of inferiority or actions of superiority. We also know another thing about self-liking, is that it is impossible to like or love anybody else more than we like or love ourselves. And at the same time, it is impossible to expect anyone else to like and respect us any more than we like and respect ourselves. So how much we feel for ourselves, how much we genuinely like and accept ourselves, forms both the outer limits and the inner limits of our relationships with other people. We can never enjoy better relationships with other people or have them enjoy better relationships with us more than we like ourselves. And every single time we say, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, if you don't believe it, go and look in a mirror and say, I like myself 5 times and try not to smile. It's almost impossible. Saying I like myself is a purely positive affirmation which causes us to feel good about ourselves all over and causes us to perform in a more effective manner in everything that we do. Many people have taken this course who are in sales or who are in public speaking or who give public presentations, and they have found, as we have found, that if just before a presentation where you are nervous or a little bit tense or uneasy, if you'll take a few minutes to psychologically pump yourself up by saying, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, we find that there is an opposite relationship or an inverse relationship between self-esteem and stress. That the more you like yourself, the less stress you suffer. The higher your levels of self-esteem, the more calm, the more relaxed, the more positive and confident you are. And the more you boost yourself by saying, I like myself, the better you perform at everything that you try. Something to attempt whenever you're feeling a little bit nervous or uneasy for any reason. You can allay those feelings by talking to yourself in a positive, strong, assertive way and telling yourself that you like yourself. So our question, of course, has been, going back further, why is it that so few people like themselves? Why is it that the great epidemic of our society today is low levels of self-esteem, low levels of self-liking and self-acceptance? In fact, many psychologists say, and I agree, that the root of all personality problems, all behavioral problems, all difficulties in interactions with other people is low self-esteem. It is people who do not like themselves, people who are down on themselves, people who do not believe in themselves, people who do not consider themselves valuable and worthwhile, and it is always manifested in our interactions with other people.